And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app, also at jbandgoldwatershow.com. If you're watching to the right of the screen, that is Darren Goldwater. To the left, that's me, Jamie. We're here until 2 o'clock this afternoon, and we are slap full, I guess is what I would say. You can also give us a call or text us on our phone line, 843-321-8893. Wherever you are watching or listening to our program, whatever chat room is available to you as well. You can also type something in there and send it along, and Darren will grab it and put it up on the screen. Something maybe you'd like to discuss, pass it over. We'll make it part of our show here on what is a chilly but beautiful day in the low country of South Carolina. Coming up today at 12:30, watch Fox's Mike Yuva. He'll join us on the Gamecocks. Some news to get to from Columbia here in just a few moments. He'll be our first guest. At 1 o'clock today, veteran NFL running back Devonta Freeman is going to join us as well. Devonta played with Pat DiMarco in Atlanta. He also currently right now is with the Buffalo Bills. That's where Pat was before his injury. We're going to talk to him about Pat DiMarco. There's an open running backs coaching position in Columbia. We got an update on that here in a minute. Maybe he'd be a fit. I wanted to get Devonta Freeman, an all-pro 1,000-yard rusher in the NFL, a guy who played with this dude. I thought, who could I talk to that would be able to give the scoop? Now, granted, Pat's my friend.
Yep.
Right? So, there's probably a little bias in there on my side. But I wanted to talk to somebody who was going to be honest about it. I want to hear the truth from somebody who's more than qualified to give us that truth. And Devonta Freeman was kind enough to say, sure, I'll hop on with you. So really looking forward to that coming up at 1 o'clock today. We'll also, of course, talk to him about the Super Bowl.
We had Pat on last week, right after he announced his retirement. And I don't remember the exact words. I'm paraphrasing. But he did say if the opportunity came about to come back to Columbia, wear that block C, It would be something that he and his family would obviously entertain. So
absolutely.
He has some interest. It's just a matter of, is it going to be a fit?
Yeah, is it the right fit? So we'll talk to Devonta about that. And at 1:30 today, we do have Gene Sapakoff as well with the Post and Courier, and a lot to get to, certainly with him. We've got some hoops we'll get into. We got some more college football to get into here in just a little bit. But first, some news out of Columbia, some things now kind of official under Shane Beamer. He has announced the player personnel hires of Taylor Edwards and Drew Hickson, and Connor Shaw now has his official role completed, yes. I should say. Nobody really knew exactly what he was going to be doing, but we certainly know now. Taylor Edwards has been named the program's director of player personnel. He's coming down from Maryland, but he's spent time, of course, in the SEC at both Arkansas and at Alabama. Drew Hickson is coming over as the assistant director of player personnel. He's coming from Kansas, where he spent some time with Les Miles out there. That was a step up for him in being able to be one of these recruiting type director guys. And now he's going to take the next step, which is shifting back into the SEC and out of the Big 12. And now Connor Shaw, his role has also been solidified as the director of football relations. And so with these responsibilities, it's kind of twofold. So he's got like a football recruiting emphasis side of his role. The other side is serving as a liaison with former Gamecock football players.
That's right.
Probably a pretty good guy to have in that role, to be honest with you.
It's a perfect guy to have in that role.
And so essentially what's happened, so he's going to work closely with Derek Moore, who just came over from Georgia Tech. So basically, and this is what I've been hearing for a while. We've talked to JC about this on our show. We're going to have JC for a while tomorrow, so we'll kind of talk about it some more with him in addition to signing day, of course. But what we had caught wind of a while back was he was kind of going to take that director, Shane was, that director of football relations job and basically split it up. And that was going to be between Derek Moore and Connor Shaw in some way, shape, or form. Now we have it because Derek Moore is the executive director of character and player development. They all intertwine. What I'm kind of envisioning here is once on-campus recruiting picks back up and things like that, Connor will be in charge of those weekends, those events.
Right. The day-to-day for the recruits on campus, making sure you understand what it means to be a Gamecock and the history and the positive side of stuff.
Yeah, just their schedules and setting up their meetings and their presentations and their tours and all those type things. And then, of course, he'll have a role maybe very similar to that with former players on the other side. So it's certainly college football has changed so much over the last 5, 10, 20 years, whatever you want to say. I know oftentimes folks look at these jobs and they're like, so what exactly do you do? If that gives some clarity, then there you go. But it looks like that is now solidified, and they're still working to make a couple of more hires from what we understand. Yesterday did get the news that Keel Pollard, former tight end for the Gamecocks, is going to stick around. It looks like a little bit of a promotion for him from GA to maybe some type of analyst role as basically assistant wide receivers coach to Justin Stepp. So that's another former Gamecock who's going to be in the program moving forward. Now, who's going to be in that running back chair moving forward? It won't be Willie Simmons. We found out yesterday, reports, the first report actually was from Matt Zenitz at AL.com, who reported that Willie Simmons is going to stay at Florida A&M, and he will not be coming to South Carolina. I have no additional detail. I had somebody text me last night and say, did South Carolina offer him? Did he turn the offer down? Did he get a raise at Florida? I don't know. I have no idea. But we do know that he won't be at South Carolina.
Right. And you know what? He's the head coach of a program. What type of a step would it be to come back as a running backs coach? I know it's in the SEC. I know the level is significantly higher. But maybe this was on Simmons' part just a little bit of a ploy to get a little bit more money, throw his name out there, know that he would be a candidate, know that it would give him some leverage. I have no idea. But looking at the surface from the outside in, maybe this was going on.
Right, absolutely. We also have some more news here on the running back coaching position, Darren, that I want to pass along from our friends at the Big Spur. We're going to talk to JC about this tomorrow at length, but this is a brand new report from the BigSpur.com's Hale McGranahan that according to Football Scoop is reporting that Virginia wide receivers coach Marquez Hagans is a target to be Des Kitchings' successor as the running backs coach at South Carolina. But Marquez Hagans is a wide receivers coach currently at Virginia. He played for Virginia. He was a 4-year letter winner from 2002 to 2005.
Okay. He
was a quarterback there, number 7 all-time in passing at Virginia. Of course, if he played then, so he played against South Carolina then in 2002 and 2003. Gamecocks played him back years and beat him then. So he's obviously got some familiarity with this program. But it looks like Marquez Hagans is a name originally reported by Football Scoop, but now picked up by Hale McGranahan in the BigSpur.com. So we'll keep an eye on that name as well, maybe to join the staff in the form of running backs coach at South Carolina. Again, of course, we're going to talk about another guy who has interest in this position, and that is Pat DiMarco. We're going to talk to veteran NFL running back Devonta Freeman at 1 o'clock today about Pat and what he would bring to the University of South Carolina.
So Hagens has some NFL experience as well. I mean, the name may not pop with you, but he did essentially have a cup of coffee in the league. He played with the Rams, the Chiefs, the Colts, the Redskins when they still had that name for a little while. But yes, the wide receiver coach at the moment for Virginia.
Yeah. So we'll keep our eyes certainly on that. We do have Mike Uva coming up as well. We'll see what he is able to dig up on that side of things here on this Tuesday afternoon. 843-321-8893, our phone number. It's also our text line. Gamers, good news. 27 minutes ago, EA Sports tweeted this, quote, "For those who never stopped believing, college football is coming back." So the college football game is coming back to EA Sports. Obviously, this is a big deal for gamers out there, but it's also a big deal for EA Sports because I think they made as much money on this game as any game ever. And with the name, image, and likeness rules set to unfold here across the country, we know certain states already have things coming into play soon with state laws. It looks like EA Sports has found some way to go ahead and put the wheels in motion to reboot the famous college football video game.
The first thing I thought was the first thing you thought. Jamie saw it maybe a minute after I did. He said, well, looks like I'm going to have to buy a PlayStation. That was my first thought. Okay, time to head back, get another PlayStation again.
That's
and
right.
My second thought was, oh, yeah, they're going to make some money on this. Not just the game, but they're going to take that platform to another level because of the game coming out. We've been clamoring for this for, when was the last one? 14?
I think so.
I think it was 14
so
was the
years.
last one. Yeah.
Yeah. And some people have hung around with those games and like continue to update them
Oh,
with
yeah.
their players.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that.
Absolutely.
I haven't played a video game, I don't think, in 10 years, maybe more than that.
It's been a while for me. I used to be, the games I played were only sports. So I'd play Madden, I'd play the college football, and I'd play basketball, and hockey and soccer are always fun games, and baseball. That's it. I was never, a violent type game or a legend hunting type thing. But the new game will have better graphics. So it's worth it to go out and get that new PlayStation, whatever's going to be on.
That's right. That's right. So if you're an EA Sports guy or gal, pay attention. It'll be out soon. I guess, according to EA Sports. Also, some news out of Clemson yesterday. Dabo Swinney is adding a former head coach to his staff. That's former Duke head coach Ted Roof. Last year, he was Vanderbilt's defensive coordinator. I wouldn't dig too deep if you're a Tiger fan into the stats for Vanderbilt's defense. Remember, they had a bunch of opt-outs. They had a bunch of injuries. It was a really tricky situation up there in Nashville. But he's going to come to Clemson and join Coach Swinney's staff. It looks like he'll be joining the staff as an analyst.
Right.
That is expected to be approved, according to multiple reports out there. The ClemsonInsider.com had this first. It also looks like two former Tigers, according to the Clemson Insider, are joining the staff as former QB Cole Stout and former offensive lineman Tyrone Crowder. They'll both be coming back to the upstate to join the Tigers football program as well. By the way, Ted Roof has been around a little bit. He was defensive coordinator at App State back in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
He was defensive coordinator at NC State in 2018. He was DC at Georgia Tech for 5 years, 13 through 17. And prior to that, defensive coordinator at Penn State, for 1 year in Happy Valley. So he's been around a little while, and he is going to be heading to the upstate to work alongside Coach Swinney and Brent Venables.
We see this somewhat regularly now with the analyst position and how it can be used. Coaches that are out of the game find a way with their buddies in the business to be an analyst, to keep themselves around the game, to keep themselves relevant. And then at some point they'll ideally in their world get another job. I mean, his role as an analyst, he's not going to have much of an impact in terms of what Venables is doing.
Well, this is a similar, if not the exact same model to what Nick Saban does.
Yeah.
At Alabama.
Right.
I mean, he's got former head coaches every year on his staff, big name guys.
That's right.
And they come in, they work for a year or two, and then they kind of rejuvenate their careers and move on to do something else.
Sark was an analyst before he was Alabama's offensive coordinator.
Right. That was Butch Jones just got done doing that down there in T-Town as well. So it's kind of a you use me, I'll use you situation.
Yeah, and coaches can almost cheat the system a little bit. We can bring on this guy with a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and he can help us in our film sessions, and he can help us break some stuff down, and we can pay him because we're going to call him this analyst, and he's not going to be one of our official coaches.
Right.
So it's a way to skirt the system. It benefits both parties.
Well, Clemson's going to get a good one. Ted Roof, again, been around a little while. Hey, real quick, I want to read this tweet from our friend Darren Heitner with Heitner Legal down in Florida. He's been on our program a few times, probably one of the best out there when it comes to sports and the legal side of them. This is his tweet, quote, EA Sports has a major challenge of bringing back NCAA football without group licensing of athlete NIL in place. If the virtual Clemson QB has a similar height, weight, color, and other identifications as the real-life QB, then it could open the door to misappropriation claims. So what Darren is saying is, the way that I'm reading this is either EA Sports has some type of loophole they're going to be able to work underneath, or they're anticipating group licensing with name, image, and likeness, and they're going to go ahead and move forward and start spinning the wheels here, get everything in place, so when it lands, they can launch.
That's a good point, because they're not announcing this with the fear of maybe we can't do this.
Right.
They waited until they knew for sure that they were going to push ahead.
Right.
So either they're willing to tiptoe around some rules, or they're expecting some rules to come down the pike. But that's an interesting point there from Heitner.
That's right.
It's not just all rosy, right? We're not just getting the game.
Yeah, I mean, they're not. No, EA Sports is a $1 billion company. They're not just going to just throw something out there and hope it sticks,
right?
Like this.
Right.
They're moving forward for a reason. So obviously, there is something legitimate there to allow them to do that, or they're expecting something legitimate to come of this. And I can't, like you said, I can't imagine they would announce this without 100% certainty they're going to legally be able to do it.
Oh, the game is coming. How it's going to look, I think, is probably that I'm sure they're still figuring that out, what they're going to be able to get away with.
Yeah.
The game is coming. They wouldn't announce this if the game was not coming. It's coming. It's just a matter of how it's going to look. Yeah. What you can guarantee, the graphics are going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. The gameplay is going to be awesome, and it will be a huge step forward. And then hopefully we've got some names on the backs of the jerseys.
Do you know who the last cover? Do you know which player was on the last cover of EA Sports? It was 2014.
Is it Lamar Jackson?
No,
I don't know.
Big Ten quarterback.
Big Ten quarterback.
2014.
Ohio State.
Close.
Who is it?
Denard Robinson.
Really?
Yeah. From Michigan.
Maybe a little bit of a curse.
Maybe. Watch Fox's Mike Yuva ahead at 12:30 today. Devonta Freeman at 1. Gene Sapakoff at 1:30. Going to be a packed day around here on the JB and Goldwater show. Let's get to a couple of things out there in football as well. We'll get to some hoops, and then we'll hit a break before we bring in Mike to our program. I'm sure you've seen the Saban video leak by now. I don't know who did this, and I don't know what the future looks like for the person that did this. But what we all figured out quickly in watching that was Saban is a hell of a recruiter.
Yeah, he is.
And he does it with facts. Like, period, the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was listening to that, it quickly became crystal clear to me that if you were a top player and you could go to Alabama, you probably need to go to Alabama. But like, they don't get everybody.
No.
So there are other things that some kids just, whatever. Everybody's situation is different, but you got location. Somebody might be the best player from California. They don't want to go to Alabama. They don't want to travel that far. Somebody might be the best player in North Georgia. They don't want to go there. They'd rather go to Clemson. Whatever it is, they're not going to get everybody.
Yep.
But you could see why they are in the mix for literally everybody if they throw their name into the hat to go get somebody.
Let's play a little bit of this, because the way he does it, I had a buddy, and you and I have been in sales for a while in some form or fashion. There's always sales around. And when I was the voice of the Citadel, a good friend of mine said, dude, you're not selling. You're just talking to people.
Right.
You're just talking to them about the Citadel, and sooner or later they're going to throw you a couple, some money to be an advertiser, right? That's the sense I get with Saban. He's not selling you. He doesn't have to sell you.
No.
He's going to present you with the facts on a silver platter and say, all right, here, make your choice. Here, we'll play some of it here.
Yeah.
Anybody in the history of college football in the last 12 years won more championships. We won 6 championships in the last 11 years. We've been in the national championship game 8 out of the last 11 years. We've been in the playoffs 9 out of the last 11 years. We got more guys drafted than any school in the country. We had 64 guys playing in the league last year. The next school had 41. So we got way more players playing in the league than anybody else. So, and everybody's going to tell you in recruiting, oh, don't go to Alabama. You can play at our school before you can play there. They got all these good players there. You won't be able to play. You can play at our place earlier. I think that's the worst stuff that people can tell you. First of all, when they tell you that, they're first of all insulting you. Because I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if you couldn't play here.
Right.
Number two, when they say you can play at our place before you can play at Alabama, they're just telling you Alabama's better than them. That's number two. All right. Then number three, is if you ask our players on our team, they'll tell you just the opposite. They'll tell you the competition may be better. Marlon Humphrey will say, he played corner, first corner taken in the draft when he was a junior. Say, I had to cover Maury Cooper every day. Maury Cooper was the first receiver taken in the draft. Cam Robinson played left tackle here, won the Alpha Trophy. Jonathan Allen played for the Redskins. He was the right end. He won the Gersten. They practiced against each other every day for 3 years. All those guys will tell you that made me better.
Right.
The competition made me better. The guy I practiced against was better than the guy I played in the game against. So don't listen to that.
Nothing there wasn't true, though.
No.
And that's the thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do you say? I mean, every other coach out there is like, oh, damn it. But there's nothing you can overcome when you roll out the facts like that. You got to go a different angle.
And first of all, it's Alabama. And if Saban is recruiting you himself, whoever is on the other end of this call is a pretty high-rated recruit.
He's a good player.
He's a good player, right? So that is first and foremost. That part. And then the second part is that other coaches around the country are like, well, okay, he's already refuted everything we're going to say.
Right.
So we just have to sit back and hope that this kid decides I don't want to go to Alabama.
Well, and another recruiting pitch that he has is Mac Jones. I mean, look
Sure.
at Mac Jones. Mac Jones is going to the league. Mac Jones came to South Carolina, or came to Alabama, went to Alabama, sat behind 2 quarterbacks who are in the league to get his opportunity. Didn't transfer. Waited on Tua, waited on Jalen Hurts, learned everything he could. He's going to be able to look back and say, I'm a national champion because I stayed at Alabama. I'm an NFL draft pick.
Yep.
I set a ton of records. He wouldn't have done that without all that talent around him, and he knows that. And that's a recruiting pitch in itself. I mean, they've literally filled up the book with so many truths that they don't have to necessarily negatively recruit. Now, I'm sure that there are folks on the staff that do. There are generally everywhere. There's always 1 or 2 guys that you're like, really? All right. But Saban doesn't have to go that route. Like hey, we're on top for a reason. And let me just give you the examples. We've got this guy and this guy and this guy. And
the only thing another school can really say to an Alabama recruit is exactly what Saban told this recruit that he would be told. Schools are going to tell you can come here and you can play sooner. Well, okay, that tells me that school knows they're not as good as Alabama.
Right.
Done. I don't have to negatively recruit. I'm just going to define for you what that coach said.
Yeah.
That coach told you they're not as good as Alabama, so come to us instead.
Well, I mean, what he's done, I mean, they're going to have they have transfers like everybody as well, but what he's also done down there, and look, success ultimately is the main contributor to this, but he's having most of his kids commit to Alabama and not to a coach on Alabama's staff. And you see everywhere, and we just saw it with Gunnar Stockton. I mean, Gunnar Stockton clearly committed to South Carolina because of a connection he had to coaches on staff, not necessarily because he was in love with South Carolina or they had some great tradition or history or whatever. He grew up a Georgia fan. And I think that's why he's going to Georgia now. He's not going to follow Mike Bobo to Auburn because he's like, well, I just figured out that Mike Bobo and I might have a great relationship and I might have a ton of allegiance to him, but assistant coaches don't have allegiance necessarily to any school out there. They got to do what's best for them. And even if they say they're going to be there for their whole lives, I don't know that to be true, but I do know to be true that I'll be happy at this school because I love this school. And Alabama's kind of figured that out. Like they're getting kids interested in them because no matter what, they know they're going to be happy at Alabama.
Yeah, recruit to the school.
I mean, they might have coaches. They have coaches leave every year, and they don't miss a beat.
It takes a while for someone to understand that everything you're being told and sold isn't 100% true, and especially when you're a kid like these guys who are being recruited at a top-notch level, they have been given everything for a long time because they're the greatest at what they do. They haven't been lied to that much because they're just being given stuff. So it's hard for them to really understand that I'm going to commit to said coach. I want to be under his tutelage, and then this guy's going to go, and it's a shock to the system. So in many ways for Gunner, it's good this happened now, and he can just say, okay, I mean, it's a learning experience. I'm going to go to Georgia where I've loved it forever.
Right.
And I know I'm going to have a good college experience. And you know what? I'm a good quarterback. If I can play at Georgia, I'll play. If not, I'll transfer out.
Well, look, Spurrier said this years ago when he first got to South Carolina. He said kids need to understand they need to commit to a school, not a coach.
I agree.
And there are people, there's some media members out there. You wonder why they're in the media and like why they're not actually coaching because they know more than all the coaches. And they were like, what is he? That's not the way it works, Steve. Steve was telling you the exact truth. You better commit to a school and not just a coach because it can change. And you're seeing now more than we've ever seen this door. Like there used to be that time period in December. All right. You'd have some movement and then you'd have another time period in February.
Yep.
You'd have movement right after signing day. Coaches would move on or whatever, things would start spinning. That's not even the case anymore. I mean, it's just never going to stop. The money is so much now. The calendars are different from when kids can come and kids can go. It's just never going to stop. There is no, I'm going to be here for at least 5-6 years. None of that means anything. Contracts don't mean anything. Mitigation clauses don't mean anything. There's too much money to overcome all of that.
And what I'm telling you as a coach, it is true at this moment. Until that other school comes in and says, you know what, I'm going to double your salary.
Yeah.
Then what I just told you a minute ago, it might not be as true because now I'm considering going over there for twice the money.
Right.
It's the real world. And for an 18-year-old, that's really hard to understand.
It is.
I can tell you, I was in a job where I was sold by the boss repeatedly until I finally figured out, and I was out of college until I finally figured out, you know what, this is just a salesman repeatedly selling me, and this is on me.
Yeah.
It's on me to realize this situation and get out of it. And it takes some time.
Real quick, couple other quick notes before we head to break, and then bring in Mike Uva from Watch Fox up in Columbia. Eric Gilbert, the big-time LSU tight end who opted out of the season and then elected to transferred to Florida. There's a problem there. Still got to get through SEC clearance. He is not going to be eligible to play in 2021 unless he appeals and he wins that appeal. And at this point in time, I don't see that happening.
Nope. It's different than the transfer rule because this is a conference rule that hasn't been affected by the changes of COVID.
Right. And there isn't really anything that affected him transferring other than he just wanted to transfer.
Yeah.
This isn't a COVID situation or anything like that. So we'll see if he could come up with something good enough to sell the Southeastern Conference on to allow him immediate eligibility at Florida. Most of those out there, if they're fans of South Carolina, Kentucky, and other places that aren't the so-called, quote, big dogs in the league, probably expect him to find a way to be eligible. But if he transferred to, Carolina or Missouri, no chance. That's what they'll tell you, right? So we'll keep an eye on that. And then also this report out of Knoxville, it came out, I think, Sunday night, maybe Sunday afternoon, that if Tennessee is to let go of Kevin Steele, this is just baffling to me. If they decide to let go of him, after hiring him, 3 weeks ago?
Yes.
They're going to owe him $900,000.
Kevin Steele is quite the marketing man for himself.
You talk about SEC retreads like Marcus Satterfield said. Why would he not have taken that deal to Tennessee? He knew no matter what happens, I'm going to get a bunch of money, and I'll go get another job after that.
And he knew not only is he going to get a bunch of money, he had a chance, an outside chance, but he had a chance to maybe get the job.
Yeah.
That's why he was brought in.
Right. And those are the examples right there. Those are the examples that have the Jay Billises of the world and others just up in arms.
Yes.
Like, wait a second. These guys can game the system for hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. It's a business to them.
Yep.
And the players have every hurdle in front of them to be able to move around and go other places. I mean, look, I'm not a fan of paying players. Okay. Name, image, and likeness is coming. That's fine. I'm not a fan of just writing checks to players as employees, but you can see why there's an uproar because of the amount of money that is now involved in coaching, like we just talked about a few moments ago, and how you could essentially work the system in every deal that you cut.
Yep.
I mean, it's almost embarrassing, to be honest with you. It is embarrassing.
But that's why they're up in arms.
That's why they're up in arms. Still got some hoops to get to. We'll more on that later. A major upset in women's hoops last night. We'll tell you how that affects the Gamecocks, and it does affect the Gamecocks with a monumental game coming up on Monday in Storrs, Connecticut. That's all down the road. When we return, watch Fox's Mike Uva right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do. They're the best. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what?
Hey, buddy, I'm not paying you to hear your thoughts on life. I'm paying you to sing.
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say! You are the worst wedding singer in the world, buddy.
Sir, one more outburst, I will strangle you with my microphone wire. You understand me?
You are listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started.
Happy Groundhog Day. Hasn't it been Groundhog Day since like last March?
It feels like it. I mean, you don't know what day of the week it is. The only way I know what day of the week it is now, I either know it's a weekday or a weekend. If I'm sitting in this chair,
right,
it's a weekday. If it's not, it's a weekend.
I know when I woke up this morning and realized February the 2nd was Groundhog Day. You know what? I always forget it until you wake up and you cut on the TV and you're like, oh, yeah, it's Groundhog Day. That little rat that comes out of his hole up there in Philadelphia. I don't listen to him, though, because today he said 6 more weeks of winter because he saw his shadow, right?
Yep.
Yeah, not the southern groundhog, old General Beauregard over there in Georgia. No shadow for him. Early spring.
Didn't know there was a General Beauregard in Georgia.
That's right.
All right.
That's right. We got our own southern Phil around here. And speaking of the north,
speaking of southern
our way
Phil.
down south, how about Mike Uva joining us here on this chilly Tuesday afternoon? What's up, man?
We doing, boys? It could be worse. We could be up north right now. I mean, all that snow. I mean, I'm the guy that when I go back, I'm bad luck. I bring all the snow, so I can't get blamed by my parents this time. And unfortunately, I can't help them shove all up the driveway. And I feel so bad for that.
Yeah, you look it.
So I called JC Sherbert on the way over here to talk to him about something. JC lives in Chicago.
Yeah.
And Mike, I called him and he answered the phone and he said, "Hey, buddy," he said, "can I call you back after the show?" And I said, "Yeah, you good?" He goes, Yeah. I'm trying to buy a snowblower. I'm done with it. And I got to know what I'm about to drop all this money on. So I'll call you back. He was all up in arms. I guess he's about snowed in up there. So yeah, we're in better shape around here, my friend. Do you miss the snow? Do you miss that much snow, Mike?
I'll tell you what, I mean, maybe it was just the fact of me going home for the first time in over a year when I went back in December, because with everything with COVID, there's really no reason to go back up north, right? So when I went up, it was 15 inches of snow. I did enjoy it to an extent. I think what I enjoyed was the fact that the very next day, it pretty much like all melted, So I guess it's one of those things. I mean, if I had to get up every morning, shovel off the car, keep the car running, do all that kind of stuff, worry about not only Boston traffic, but you're also dealing with traffic because of the snow, added traffic. I don't know if I would do that every day. I mean, I'll tell you what, one of the most miserable things in the world, I did a summer internship, was going on the subway in Boston. Oh. I mean, you want to just meet the most people that just are just pissed off about everyone. I mean, I was pissed off. I didn't want to talk to anyone. There's nothing worse than someone on their phone talking about God knows what, right? Imagine that in the winter. I mean, that's just, no, thank you. I don't miss that part of it.
No.
The thing I miss most about COVID and not traveling and doing the games I used to do is the travel. It's not the games. I miss seeing, I miss seeing the snow. I miss the travel. I don't miss living in the snow. I do miss seeing it. I miss the feel, right, but I like retreating back to Charleston.
Yeah, I like the snow. Yeah. We had a white Christmas in Wyoming in 2017. It was neat, and then I got to come home.
Yeah,
that was good. All right, Mike, let's get to a couple things with you, brother. First and foremost, has released their official off-field roles for some of these new hires. They've kind of clarified exactly what Connor's going to be doing moving forward as well. This is one of those conversations that you have when there's a coaching change, Mike. So everybody knows what everybody's doing. And then as time goes on, you when you bring these conversations back up, people go, so what is it that Connor Shaw does again? You know what I mean? Like, nobody ever knows what these guys do. Like, so what do they, like, Connor's director of football relations, and he's got a side that's recruiting in football, and then he's got another side that's serving as a liaison to Gamecock players. Like, what does that mean?
Well, I think first and foremost, the way you got to look at it is Will Muschamp created this Beyond Football program for Marcus Lattimore a couple seasons ago, right? That was something that wasn't even in place before Muschamp got here. So now you have a new head coach. He doesn't necessarily need to, number one, even call it the same thing. But number two, he doesn't even need to keep that in place. But I think Beamer understands the importance of being able to get players prepared for life after football. A lot of programs have something to that extent. And from talking to players that had a chance to be able to work with Marcus Lattimore, they really enjoyed it because it prepares them for life after football. Now, that stuff's great, and they're still going to be able to have something like that to an extent. But at the same time, too, you're able to use a guy like Connor Shaw for a little bit more. And now he's going to be able to, he'll be able to still work with the players and being able to help them out in terms of getting them ready for life after football. But what he's going to also be able to do is he's going to be able to help from a recruiting standpoint. And there's obviously a fine line when it comes to how many coaches can recruit. So this is something that I wish I knew indefinite in terms of how that they make it work, but he'll be able to still do some type of recruiting. I'm not saying going on the road recruiting, but he'll be able to do some type of recruiting in some capacity. On top of that, he's going to be able to continue to build those relationships with the former players, because that is one of the things we've heard so much about in the past since Beamer has got here, right? That Muschamp, there was just a disconnect with him and the former players in terms of that welcoming feeling, right? So now that you have a guy like Beamer back here, we've seen just how many former players, not just the guys that played for Beamer during his period, his first stint in South Carolina as assistant coach, but we're also seeing some of the guys that didn't play for him showing their support. And to be able to have, I don't care if it's South Carolina, I don't care if it's a Division II school or Division III, you need to have the support of the former players. So I think that's big. And being able to have a guy like Derek Moore in here now helping out as the new director of the new director of character player development, that will kind of pick up some of the pieces that will be lost with Connor being able to do some more things. So they're still going to be able to have in place this, beyond football program, quote unquote, not going to be the same name, of course, but they're going to be able to continue to have that because I think that is so important to be able to help players outside of the game of football.
Yeah, over the last 22 years, it's been an up and down ride for former lettermen in the Gamecock football program. I remember when Coach Holtz was running the show at South Carolina, many guys who had come before that era were frustrated with accessibility to the Carolina football program. It's not, I had one guy tell me one time he didn't necessarily feel welcome, but I most of the time it was, we just never felt important.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we couldn't reach out and say, hey, we're going to come, and somebody wouldn't find a way to take care of us, but it wasn't an easy process. And when they were there, it was like, oh, okay, hey, good to see you.
Just another dude.
Yeah. Just another guy. Spurrier shows up and he's like, hey, well, let's go play around the golf and this, that, and the other, and, have a cold beer, of course, original, things like that. Let's take our shirts off and stand up here in the coach's box and watch things. I mean, it was Spurrier understood it. He got it. But it wasn't perfect then either. And there wasn't as much of an emphasis. And then when Coach Muschamp came along, I mean, I asked Will about this when he first got hired, guys. I mean, I asked, what are you doing for former players? They're all welcome. Here's what we're doing. And I think as time went along, we found that a lot of those guys actually never felt any of that love, but Shane certainly is taking that to a different level now, Mike.
Yeah, and coaches want to be able to do this, right? And I'll kind of make it personal in a sense, and try to explain things from behind the curtain. But in terms of Muschamp, and I've always said this too, anyone that's had the chance to speak with Will Muschamp when the cameras weren't off, he is an awesome guy to be around. Yeah. I mean, when the cameras were on, he was still a good guy. And I say to some extent, but I mean that's not fair to him because I felt like he did show that personality from time to time when he had the cameras in front of him. But when the cameras weren't on and you had a chance to talk to him, he was very personable. He was a funny guy. And this is just things that I saw. And from talking to other people, especially former players, I can only imagine how much more he let his hair down. The problem is this. He is from the Saban cloth. He was cut from that cloth. And a lot of these former coaches, they try to replicate it. And for some of them, I'd say a lot of them, it just doesn't work out. It just doesn't work out because at the end of the day, you're not Nick Saban. You're not going to be able to replicate some of the things that he's been able to do. And it takes an extended period of time with success to be able to do that. So I think that's one of the main reasons why this disconnect happened, because I'm sure he did a lot of things that were very similar in terms of how Saban went about things. But, the personal story real quick. I mean, when I was in college, we had a new coach come in, okay? New coach. It was night and day compared to what the previous coach had done. And he did a great job. That's the man that recruited me. He ended up going down to Coastal Carolina, coaching, being an assistant coach down there for a couple of years. But he came in, and the connection he had with former players was huge. And I'm not saying that it automatically correlates to success on the field in terms of the wins and the losses, but he was able to do that. The next thing you know, we have 3 guys that are in the NFL. That's never happened. We have a guy playing in the Super Bowl right now this week. It was a starter. He's a long snapper for the Buccaneers. And we have a Pro Bowl punt returner, Deontay Harris, for the Saints. These things happen because the former players come back and they're able to build a culture. That word, culture. That's how you build it. You get everyone involved in it, and being able to make former players feel like they're still welcome is so big. And from talking to a lot of the players over the last couple of years, they just didn't feel that same feeling with Muschamp.
Mike Uva, watch Fox 1244 on this Tuesday afternoon. Coming up next, by the way, veteran NFL running back Devonta Freeman is going to hop in here, and we're going to talk to him about the Super Bowl. We're going to talk to him about Pat DiMarco.
Yep.
Mike, there is an opening right now, again, on staff at South Carolina.
Another one?
Yeah, another one.
Anything else open so far today? I mean, any other positions we have to keep an eye on?
Wait till tomorrow, man.
That's right. Today's Groundhog Day? Of course it is. Every day's Groundhog Day. Imagine if you're Shane Beamer. He wakes up, he's like, he hears that song that plays in the movie every morning at 6:00.
It's his cell phone ring is what his song is.
Report from Football Scoop earlier today, also picked up by our friend Hale McGranahan over there at thebigspur.com. Not sure if you've reported on this just yet, Mike, but Marquez Hagens, wide receivers coach at Virginia, is a name who's popped up per the Football Scoop folks that could be a target for Shane Beamer to fill this role. He's the wide receivers coach now at Virginia. And you know what? Probably a guy who would fill in very nicely here. And we'll see where this goes. Willie Simmons yesterday announced he's going to stay at Florida A&M. When you look at this role, Mike, I mean, you know football, you're a reporter, but you've got a football side of you. You get it. What type of coach should be filling this role for South Carolina? I mean, you know, Pat DiMarco, granted, I'm a little biased. He's a friend of mine. He's a guy who's openly said, I'd be very interested in that coaching position there. You know, so his name's kind of floating out there, and there's others. But what type of coach does Shane Beamer need to fill this role with?
I think first and foremost, someone that believes in the same vision that Beamer has. And you look at some of the other coaches that have come in here, and you know, I know we've heard from Gene in the past, and I keep bringing it up, that article, you know, that Moneyball article that he talked about. You know, this is kind of a Moneyball experiment in a lot of senses, because he's bringing in guys with a lot of ties to South Carolina in one way or another. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen at other schools, but it just seems like it's stronger here than, you know, in recent memories in comparison to some of the other Power 5 schools that you see across the country. So I think you need that first and foremost. The fact that he coached receivers, I mean, look, a lot of these offensive coaches, and not just offensive coaches, defensive coaches, they've coached multiple positions through their climb to where they are right now. I mean, sometimes a guy coaches, you know, defensive ends, you know, his first year as maybe, you know, one of his, he's a GA, he's behind someone, one of the assistant coaches, he works his way up, he's coaching safeties, and then the next year he's coaching receivers. You know, look at Marcus Satterfield. I mean, he's been kind of all over the place, right? So he has this experience which can help you, especially as an offensive coordinator, the fact that he's been able to watch film, because when you watch film, it's not, okay, just watch the football. Your eyes, and I've had this conversation with a bunch of former Gamecocks, and obviously with my experience, your eyes get trained differently when you watch film based on your position. I mean, it's just crazy. You can't watch football the same way for a while until you get away from the game. So I think that's going to help him. But being able to have that experience as a receivers coach, I mean, if he came over, great. I mean, you know, he's able to understand and tell the running backs, hey, this is what they're looking for. This is how you can help them out. But I think that more than anything, whether it's him, whether it's someone else, another guy that I keep hearing, E.J. Barthel, just because of his connections right now with the Carolina Panthers and his connections, obviously, with Marcus, with their time in Carolina. If you have someone in here that can just buy in, you have tremendous running backs right now. I mean, you look at the depth chart at any position. What position do you feel the most comfortable with going into 2021? I'd have to say running backs. And we haven't even seen Marshawn Lloyd and what he's capable of doing. But I think we all assume that he's going to come back. He's going to be the type of player that a lot of us still expected him to be, despite the injury, because ACL injuries, knock on wood, but ACL injuries, we've seen a lot of players be able to come back quickly, and they haven't missed a beat. Now, it's going to take some time for him to get going, but the good thing that he has going for him is he's not going to have that pressure to have to get out there week 1, week 2, week 3, and get 15, 20, 25 carries, because you have a phenomenal running back in Kevin Harris in front of you. So whoever you can bring in here, just believe in the philosophy, believe in the mission that Shane Beamer wants first and foremost. And if you can just come in here and basically just be able to teach a stud group of running backs right now, I think you're going to be all right.
Well, yeah, and let's not stop there. Let's remember, you know, there's a lot of talent in the young man that got into some games late in the season this year. Rashad Amos, he's going to be freshman year back, and I know he coughed it up a few times, and that was his bugaboo. But Zaquandre White can play, and I'll be anxious to see what they do with him, if they keep him on that side of the ball, or if they permanently move him to defense. And the kid that's coming in, Juju McDowell, I've heard nothing but positive things about that young man as well. What are you hearing in Columbia? I mean, they've been heavy into workouts here in the early part of the year. Luke Day was on our show a couple of weeks ago. I can only imagine what it's like in the weight room with him every day. What are you hearing coming from the facility?
Well, I mean, one of the things I think I put out about a week ago, I was trying to see if I could pull up exactly what I put out there, but it was just talking about Luke Day and just how the players have quickly bought into his philosophy. Yeah. And that's big, because I've mentioned this numerous times, the importance of a strength and conditioning coach outside of the head coach. And this is no disrespect to any of the other coaches on staff, especially the on-field coaches, but your strength and conditioning coach is one of the most important coaches you have outside of the head coach, because he's around the players more than anyone else. So you need to be able to have someone that the players can trust and be able to feel like they can relate to, and, you know, just be able to build a trustworthy rapport with, because if you don't, you're not going to go anywhere. And we've seen, obviously, over the years, we can talk about injuries and this and that. Things happen. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole and comparing Day to some of the other strength coaches that South Carolina has had in recent years. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to have someone that the players respect and they trust. And I will tell you, as soon as I put that report out, I had parents of players, current players right now of USC, who I've never even heard of because I just leave my DMs open. So ever since the pandemic for just story ideas. And of course, you don't always get story ideas. You get some interesting DMs sometimes, but that's a different story. But the point being, no fun stuff like that. But sorry, Miranda, my girlfriend. But no, the point being is like I started hearing from some of these parents of players, and they're like, they love them. They absolutely love them. So I think that's great. And a lot of the parents also added that they just love what Shane Beamer is doing right now, because the feeling that they get is that he doesn't view them as a number. He views them as a person first. And we hear that all the time and how important that is. So look, wins, losses, we're going to have to wait until September, right? But at the same time, right now, you're a new coach. You're trying to be able to just build that trust in those players. And they're seeing what's going on. I mean, you've had multiple coaches leave this offseason that were expected to be here heading into February 2nd. They're gone right now. What can you do to be able to get this team to stay together? You need to be able to build that trust. And I think Beamer's doing everything the right way, and the players are responding positively to it.
12:51 on this Tuesday afternoon. Mike Yuba with Watch Fox in Columbia, kind of on that topic, but into a different sport, hoops. I know that you were on the call with Frank earlier today. What was your takeaway from Frank Martin's press conference? They've got a huge game now against the top 25 Florida team tomorrow night on the SEC network that'll be called by our friends Mike Morgan and Debbie Antonelli. What was your takeaway from Frank's appearance this morning? What did he look like and sound like?
I know some people might get upset when I say this, but hear me out. Let me finish the full thought here. Frank today, compared to the last time we heard from him, he was more upbeat. He was telling stories. I mean, he told a story how when he was working as a teacher down in the Key West, he had a drink with the mayor, at 1:00 in the afternoon. And then the next person that walked into the bar was Jimmy Buffett. He was drinking with Jimmy Buffett before he went on stage. So he was more of his usual Frank self. And I preface that saying, like, hear me out, because I'm sure some fans are going to be like, oh, great. He's telling jokes. He thinks this is all a joke. No. But you need Frank to be able to show his personality. That's just who he is. And for a long period of time, we just haven't been able to see that in him, because from the health, everything that's going on with his health, just the beating that he's been taking personally, you can just sense that Frank just hasn't been himself. And then on top of it, with the COVID delays, with whether it's games getting canceled or postponed and practices, it's really thrown a wrench into his coaching philosophy. It's made things difficult. And I know fans are tired of hearing that, but there's no two ways around it. You have to look at it that way. I mean, that's just the reality. Frank coaches a tough defense, and you need to be able to have the repetitions in practice to be able to do that. And we've seen this year, in comparison, not just to his entire tenure at USC, but going back to Kansas State. I mean, if they scored 100 points the other day, that would be the first time in Frank's head coaching career at the collegiate level that he's given up 100 points or more in 2 games in the same season. So think about that. You think that just happens? No, there's a reason why. But I think more than anything is he's trying to get these players to trust each other, and not having those practices. He says it's shown, and he's putting it back on the players. Frank's never been someone that throws players under the bus. And I'm not saying he's throwing players under the bus necessarily, but he's being more transparent about it. And I think that's great. And it just shows that this team right now, because of the lack of practices, they're not connecting the way that they need to. And that's why we're seeing air balls. That's why we're seeing turnovers. That's why we're seeing players kind of just playing one-on-one out there. They're not moving the ball around the way they need to. And I think Frank has really hit home on that the last 2 times he spoke.
Did anybody say something, kind of call Frank on that? Because look, if you're mired in a stretch where you're playing as badly as the Gamecocks are, having a head coach at least show confidence, at least show his normal personality. You hope that the team can then take the personality of the coach. Is that going on? Did anyone at least bring that up to him?
Well, one of the questions I asked him is, I said, Frank, you have obviously an educational background as a teacher. And sometimes you have to make adjustments sometimes when your students aren't responding. What adjustments have you been able to make, or have you made changes to be able to get your players to respond differently? And he said one of the challenges is he just hasn't been able to be himself because he's like, I'm demanding on my players, but at the same time too, I know that there's some things that we're behind on. Just like if you're teaching a class, how am I supposed to get upset at my students when they haven't been able to get the same amount of repetitions as we should have had at this point on February 2nd? So that's the kind of takeaway that I took from just listening to him today. But he says he's starting to feel more like himself. He's starting to be more demanding on his players because he feels like he can now that they've had, a couple weeks of consistent play, something that they really haven't had all season up to this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's been one of the sticking points for 9 years under Frank's leadership in South Carolina is his teams always take on his personalities. And really, there's one word for that. It's toughness. So there's always a toughness about Frank's teams. Defensively, first and foremost, and then offensively, and it just hasn't translated this year. In your opinion here, Mike, I mean, right now there's 9 games left. We'll see if they can get some makeups in there. It looks like the SEC is going to make every attempt to do that. But in your opinion, is there time left for this team to truly make a miracle run and make it into March?
I mean, there is when you look at the paper and you look at some of the matchups that will be coming up for USC, and then you think about the conference tournament. But I just think it's going to be extremely difficult to. You're going to have to really. I mean, I don't want to put anything in concrete saying if they win 7 games or 8 games and then they win maybe 2 games in the tournament that they're going to be automatically in. I think first and foremost, you just got to be able to show some consistent fight. And then we can start worrying about wins and start worrying about being able to talk about postseason play, because this team right now has been very inconsistent. And as I mentioned, some of this has to do with COVID. Some of this doesn't have to do with COVID. But being able to get this team heading in the right direction, in a direction that we all believed going into this season that this team was capable of heading in. And unfortunately, it just hasn't come to life. And like I said, some of that has to do with COVID. Some fans don't want to hear that. Some fans want to just throw it under the bus. And some fans are going to probably say, oh, you're just defending Frank because, you guys are always easy on Frank. I'm just calling for what it is. I mean, that's just the reality of it. If you want to call for Frank's the head coach. Frank deserves some blame. There's no question about it. But let's not act dumb here. I mean, there's a reason why when you look at all the teams in the SEC, go back and look at how many games South Carolina has missed in comparison to the other teams. Oh. This isn't stuff that I'm just, pulling out of my backside. I mean, this is concrete stuff that you can look at numbers and it proves that.
Yep.
Well, if you want to take the glass half full approach to this, opportunity awaits the Gamecocks. The problem is that same opportunity could bury them if they're not careful. But for the next 6 games against top 25 teams on the road at Florida tomorrow night, they got Mississippi State coming up Saturday, and then it's the high-flying Tide coming to town next Tuesday before Ole Miss, Tennessee on the road, and then Missouri back at home on Saturday, February the 20th. So opportunity certainly awaits, Mike. We'll have to see how it all unfolds. But I know how this segment's about to unfold. It's going to end. We got to let you go on that note because we can't leave an all-pro NFL running back waiting on a phone call, my friend.
No, I was just some D2 has-been. Go talk to the real pros.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much. We got signing day tomorrow. We got hoops going on. We are in the middle of these hires with football. I know you're a busy man. We'll continue to monitor things from your side, and we look forward to trying to get you back in here next week, okay?
Appreciate it. Big things coming next week, guys. Keep your eyes peeled.
Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah.
They're not Gamecock related, so I'll just put that away. I'm sorry, fans, if you got excited about that. But
you're going to be a coach at Assumption.
I'd love to still coach if I could. I'll make ask Shane Beamer if I could be a GA. I don't know if that would work with being in the media, but we'll figure something out.
Thanks, Mike.
Take care, guys.
There you go, Mike Cuba with Watch Fox in Columbia. All right, got to hit a timeout. When we return, NFL running back Devonta Freeman has been kind enough to join us today right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, protected by McFadden Pest Control. What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risk their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Low Country. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf team. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
All right, final hour on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back to JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. We are on the JB and Goldwater app. Download that in your phone. It's free. You can watch and listen to our program daily in its entirety. You can always go back and watch and listen as well if you miss any part of it. Across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. Coming up at 1:30. Post and Courier's Gene Sapakoff. Thanks to Mike Yuva in that last segment there with the Watch Fox up in Columbia, South Carolina. But now we head to the NFL. It is Super Bowl week. And in addition to that, our good buddy around here, Pat DiMarco, has announced his retirement from the National Football League after over a decade's worth of service. This man, though, is still playing. It is NFL veteran running back, Florida State, former Florida State star, I guess we'll say, Devonta Freeman, kind enough to lend us a few minutes here on a Tuesday afternoon. Devonta, what's up, man?
Nothing, man. Just enjoying my day down here in South Florida. Just excited, man. Just happy and just excited for the future and just going day by day. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. We don't get an off season like you do, though.
I know, but man, my off season is brutal. I mean, my end season is real brutal, man. So
that's right.
It demands a lot.
Well,
that's fair.
This off season is definitely needed.
That's a good point. When I walk into the studio each day, Darren doesn't tackle me into a wall or something like that.
I'll try that though. We can work on that.
No. How are you feeling?
Gotta get hit.
How you feeling? You feel good? You healthy?
Yeah, I'm healthy. I'm feeling good. I'm at peace of mind. Just all is well on my end. Family good. Can't complain. Just working out every other day on the off season and just going day by day with it. But I feel amazing.
That's wonderful. So, where are you? Are you in the Miami area right now?
Yeah. So I train in South Florida and I train in Atlanta. So I'll be back and forth. I got spots at both. In both states, and I just train in both areas.
Okay. Are you going to try to trek across the state this week? Are you going to be able to go to the Super Bowl, or are they COVID canceling you in this one?
I think the COVID going to keep us back. You know, I think I get with my family and watch TV, get some food, and just hang out with the family. Tampa, I'm in Miami right now, so Tampa is only a couple hours away. It's really an easy drive, but I think I'm going to kick back and just enjoy my family and watch the game.
There you go. Us too. You're welcome to come up to Charleston if you'd like. If your plans get canceled, just pack the family and come on up. We'll take care of you.
Hold on. How cold it is up there right now?
Cold.
Yeah, about 45.
Cold.
Man, I was in Buffalo. I'm running for that right now.
Yeah.
New York and Buffalo. Kind of being a star.
It's better than the snow that Buffalo's getting right now.
Yeah, thank God you're not up there right now. You wouldn't be able to get out.
I know. I heard it's a bad storm coming up.
All right, well, we're going to circle back to the Super Bowl in just a little bit. Devonta, certainly want to hit on your career as well. But I do want to ask you about Pat. You know, I've known Pat for a long time, and that's one of the reasons we reached out to you. And I'm so thankful that you've been kind enough to hop on with Darren and I here today. Pat and I did go to school together at South Carolina, full disclosure, so I'm a little bit biased when I speak about him and some of the other guys that put on the uniform for the Gamecocks. But you played with him in the NFL. What'd you learn about Pat DiMarco? You had him in Atlanta, both your 1,000-yard seasons as an NFL running back. What'd you learn about him?
So much. Like, I could write a book for real, honestly. You know, of course, when we go to work every morning, go home at night, I had about 8 hours a day to be around Pat. So when I was around him, the thing that I learned so much, but his attention to details, his professionalism, and just the way he carried himself as a man, the way he take care of his family, just stuff like that I always like admire about him. And he's a people person. You know, he helped everyone. And the thing about him that he does well is he could identify with somebody going through something, and he know how to lift that person up. You know, so just I could go on and on and on, and 100 amazing things about Pat that I could say. And he's just been my brother since day one. It's been times he's seen me develop, he's seen me grow. First day I walked in Atlanta, took me under his wing, and you know, he's my fullback. So I just wanted to be on the same page with him, and I stressed that to him, and I was like, bro, whatever you see, whatever you need, just help me get on the same page with you, so we could be one. And I think when we became one, we became unstoppable. But it goes back to his attention to details in his workplace. That's what still sticks with me and it struck me, because, you know, as a young man, you don't really see that as much. As a young NFL player making some money, an all-star, a Pro Bowler, but come in every single day, not just do the job, but do it right every single day. Take that shot, not shoot 100 free throws, but shoot that one free throw 100 times, you know, the same way. And that's the type of guy Pat is, because, you know, like his attention to detail. So Like I could talk a book, I could say a book so much, just so much.
Well, I mean, you were and you are still, and hopefully here starting next season, hopefully you got another 1,000 yards year or two left under your belt. But 15, 16, when you go back and look at your numbers, they were as good as anybody's in the league. 27 touchdowns, I think, combined between those 2 years, both 1,000-yard years. You caught about 50, 60, 70 passes in those couple of years, about 500 yards receiving. That's a lot for a running back. In that, from a football standpoint, in the system that you were playing in Atlanta, what was Pat's role in that system? Like, what did he mean to you specifically on the field?
To me, in the backfield, as a running back group, Pat is like, how can I say it? The unsung hero. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
He was like the unsung hero. Always do all the dirty work and get the job done. And I remember, I was a little younger. I couldn't block. I didn't know how to pass protect. And we had two running backs. It was me and Tevin. And Tevin is our brother as well. Pat helped him as well. So me and him couldn't block. And, Pat would come in and take on the role on third down and block those big guys. We'll go against Thomas Davis or Luke Kuechly, those all-pro linebackers. I couldn't block them guys at the time. And Pat stepped up, and he always took on that role and didn't complain, didn't get a bunch of carries, didn't get a bunch of catches. And just did his job every single day. So that's how impactful and helpful he was for me. I was a runner. I specialized in running and catching, and that's when, but when you put Pat at blocking and doing what he do, then, it make us one. That's why we had so much success. It didn't matter about how many touchdowns, how many yards. We both had success. And that's what was so amazing about sharing that backfield with him. And I never played with a fullback like him.
Well, certainly. Yeah. I mean, the fullback, you almost feel like it has become non-existent in the sport of football. What type of, we're giving Well, no. I was just going to ask, like, what type of person, Devonta, do you have to be to carry that role, especially in the NFL, doing all the dirty work? You got the big 6'4", 250-pound linebacker coming at you to make sure he can clear space for you to tote the rock. What type of human being do you have to be to be that type of player like Pat was in the NFL, that type of fullback? What type of person do you have to be?
First, you have to be unselfish. It takes a lot of unselfishness. You have to be comfortable with what you're asked to do, whatever the guys actually do. I think in football world, in the NFL, you have to come in with the mindset of you know what you can do, but expect anything to happen. You just have to be very unselfish. You can't be selfish, and you have to have a positive mindset about it. And it's a job. Don't look at it like when you bring selfish to the business and to the game. I think that's when a lot of people get in trouble, because they want me instead of us and we. And that's the thing that Pat brought. It was always we and us. And just, you have to be extremely unselfish.
Devonta Freeman, running back in the NFL, joining us here at almost 1:15 on a Tuesday afternoon. Our friend Pat DiMarco is newly retired, so we've asked Devonta to share a couple of words about his former teammate. What speaking of teammates, what did others say about him? I mean, when you were in Atlanta with him, you now signed with Buffalo this year, late in the season. Pat, of course, played with the Bills. In being in these two different locker rooms, two different organizations, but the same organizations and locker rooms that DiMarco shared. What did his former teammates say about him?
It was so. Okay, so to answer the first part, being in those different locker rooms was like an easy adjustment, just because I had guys like Pat. In my younger years, I saw how he led the running back rooms. I saw how he held everybody accountable when I was younger. So now I'm an older guy. I'm on year 8. I go into these different locker rooms. I've been in New York and in Buffalo, but when I was in New York, I was one of the oldest guys. And I just always remember how Pat would carry himself when I was a rookie, and that's what I did. And it was an easy transition. All the younger guys gravitated to me, and they kind of followed along. I was only there for a short period of time, but I wasn't able to give them everything. And a little time then when I moved to Buffalo, all the players, it felt like I've been on this team for 5 years because I guess Pat's presence, it got to be Pat's presence in that locker room. It felt like I was there for forever because everybody come up to me, yo, man, we're going to take care of you. We heard a lot of great things about you. And I was only there, I had only been in the building for maybe an hour. And just so many guys came up to me and mentioned Pat. Was like, man, telling me so many great things about him. And I was just like, wow. I felt like I was on Buffalo roster for a whole year. The way the guys gravitated to me, it felt like I didn't have to prove myself. I felt like I didn't have to go out and beat anyone I wasn't. I just felt comfortable from day one, and I definitely feel like that got a lot to do with just Pat talking about me to the guys and stuff. Like the coaches, they was like really, really familiar with me. And now, of course, the coaches over there was at Carolina for a couple of years. But it was good just going in that locker room and feel that type of energy.
So Devonta, and we're talking with Devonta Freeman here. We know how he changed you from a mentality standpoint, how to be a pro, how to carry yourself. How do you make you better on the field?
Just watching a bunch of film, understanding the play. So we had like outside zones, inside zones, but it was different. Each outside zone was blocked kind of different. It was tracked so for outside zone, for example, you got an open edge and you got with a tight end on the edge. It's the same track. It looked exactly the same, but it's blocked different and it's a different kind of defensive structure. So just like little stuff like that, just being a student of the game, knowing what I got from Pat, I wanted to know what's what, who's who, and where to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because that made my game easier. And even when we would run like outside zone, me and Pat got to the point where we're like, we don't need to blow these guys up. We just need to position block them. Mm-hmm. And then once we got to that point where we started position blocking, we went to another level. Because for me, Pat wasn't blowing the guys up, making that huge collision in the middle of the hole, causing nowhere to go at. So what we would do is we'll pick a shoulder, and I know Pat aiming point gonna be on the outside. He aiming from that outside, so I would press outside just to get the guy to run and get him off balance, stick him in a little bit, and get back outside. So we could have that. He could reach that leverage, get that leverage on that defender, and just little stuff like that just helped us go to another level.
God, I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah,
you could continue to teach me all this offensive philosophy.
Nah, like it's the art behind it. I especially with playing with the fullback. As a running back, it's the art, but playing with a fullback and to be on the same page and be like, we accomplished some nice things, together. That was a highlight of my life.
Devonta, Pat, over the last few days and really even before that, but it's become a little bit more public, I think, since he joined us on the air this past Friday. He's made it known that he would like to maybe step into coaching. He thinks he's ready to be a college football coach. Do you think Pat DiMarco should be a college football coach?
Head coach. Head coach. Head coach. Head coach. I would love to see that. I tell my people all the time, I know he's going to be the head coach. That's just the type of guy he is. I mean, if that's what he wants to do, but I definitely think he qualified for that skill set.
But why?
Because
what would make him a good?
Because as a head coach, I feel like you have to be a leader.
Yeah.
You have to know how to coach. You have to know how to teach. You have to know how to do that really, really well to get everybody on the same page to have success in football, to win games, because as you know, when it comes to football, it ain't, especially in the NFL, it ain't about the most talent. It's about the team that make the least mistakes. Who more detailed? And that's what Pat brings. I'm not talking about just athletic. I'm talking about the attention to detail. Everybody in the league, everybody in college is big, strong, physical, and fast. It's the attention to details is what's going to have you on another level over and over and over and over and over again. So that's why I know for a fact when he transitions to that next career as coaching, he's going to have success. If it's as a head coach, a running back coach, whatever, his position always going to be successful just for his attention to details alone.
You know, I think it's fascinating that one of the best running backs in the NFL is endorsing Pat DiMarco as a running backs coach. Devonta, you played at Florida State. You were the first 1,000-yard rusher at Florida State since Warwick Dunn.
There you go.
You won a national championship. You beat the damn Auburn Tigers. Good for you. Good for you. All right. Okay. And so, but I want to go back before that. Do you remember what you were going through in high school in the recruiting process? Like, what was the recruiting process like for you as a young man trying to choose your college destination?
It was tough. It was like, because at the time I was going to university. I was staying in Miami, of course. I was, Florida State was recruiting me super. And then after we won the national championship, that's when Miami came. And Miami was on me like crazy. They was at my mom's house every day. But I was already up in Tallahassee because I was early enrolled. I enrolled in college in the spring to get ahead, get a jump on the guys. Just not the guys, but on the playbook and stuff. But it was tough because I didn't want to leave home. My first time leaving home, away from my family, away from my mom, I didn't know what to do. But I kind of felt like deep down I didn't need to be in the South, like down South. I needed to go away. And it was tough. That was my first time away from my mom. I cried a little bit. But don't tell. Well, the whole world.
Yeah. We won't tell. Don't worry.
Won't tell us all.
I shed a tear or two. But it was tough, but it was fun at the same time. Like going into a new environment, meeting new people. I think I'm a people person, so it's always easy for me to adapt to people.
Well,
it was cool. It was cool.
All right. In saying that, I mean, you had just tons of schools recruiting you. You had coaches from everywhere knocking on the door, sending letters, sending text messages, calling, stepping into the living room, whatever. I mean, recruiting is a process, and you got to be a special person to be able to recruit. And that's kind of how I'm going to tie Pat back into this. Like, knowing what you know about college football coaches and how they recruit, is that something that you think that Pat DiMarco has the traits and characteristics to be a successful recruiter?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. He's going to steal your heart.
Yeah.
He's going to steal your heart. Unintentionally. Unintentionally.
Right.
Unintentionally.
I could agree with that. Yeah, I mean, because I think, in today's world, like, and we're seeing this, Devonta, like you if you just watch the news every day, you see this every day. Steve Spurrier long said you should commit to a school, not a coach, because you don't know how long those coaches are going to be there. But kids, as you know, they get attached to many of their position coaches, coordinators, whatever, head coaches, and they want to go where they feel most comfortable with these guys. And then things sometimes don't work out. Coaches leave for another position, they get fired, whatever. Things happen, and now you see transfers all over the place. But so I feel like finding trust in somebody is a difficult thing these days. You had to trust Pat when you played with him. Why should a young man, if he walked into their living room trying to recruit him to come play for him at some school, South Carolina, wherever, why should they trust Pat?
Many reasons, many reasons. Someone safe to talk to about anything first and foremost, and someone that could probably have resources that's going to help you get to that next level. But you want to put your kids, your high school graduates that's getting ready to go to college, about to sign with Patrick. You want to have them in a safe environment, somebody that really care and have their best career at interest at heart. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been in a situation where, you know, coaches had to leave and stuff, running back coaches and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you do kind of want to put yourself in a great situation to protect yourself. But I could tell you, when the guys are in his presence, that they're gonna love him. They're gonna love everything about him, and it's straightforward. It's straightforward. Come to work, be consistent, and do your job. Do what you got to do. It's not gonna be hard, but we're gonna work. You know, that's Pat's mindset. We're gonna work. We're gonna do it the right way, over and over, and attention to details. And if I'm a parent, I want my kid around someone like that.
Yeah, and somebody who can develop you as a player as well. I mean, we know.
Yep.
You know, if you're, especially running backs, if you're a running back, you want to go to the league, just like you did, Devonta. By the way, for Carolina fans out there, Devonta was coached one year by Jay Graham, who's now at Alabama, but also was under Steve Spurrier at South Carolina. Jay Graham was on staff when Pat DiMarco was at Carolina, and then, of course, he went to Florida State, and you got to know Jay Graham, so y'all have a nice connection there as well. Great guy in the coaching industry as well. All right.
Yeah.
I want to get your prediction on the Super Bowl. Who's going to win this thing?
Man, I don't know. I can't go against Brady. I played against him in the Super Bowl. I would like to have a rematch sometime in my career, hopefully. But I don't know. That Kansas City Chiefs, man, they so explosive. Like, anybody can score at any time. They fast. I think it's going to be a good game. I think Tampa have the better defense. I'm excited to see how it turned out. Tampa had a really, really fast start. They started off like number 2 defense in the nation. I mean, at the time earlier in the year, and they kind of got banged up. But I'm pretty sure they're a lot more healthier now. So just looking forward to see how it end up.
So, do we get a score prediction here?
Is this a high score?
Oh game? Yeah. It's gonna be the over. I say on the over. I say probably the over 63 points.
Over 63.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's just clarify here. Devonta Freeman is not betting on football. He's just we're just having a conversation.
Yes, we're just discussing who's going to win.
I'm glad you said that. No betting at all. 100% no betting.
Let me clarify some things here, guys. First of all, that's not even the over/under in the game. We're just having some fun with this.
But if you believe him, take the over.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So, what is next for you? What are we looking out for the future of Devonta Freeman in the NFL? Obviously, you're still under the Buffalo umbrella, but what does this offseason in the future look like?
All good things, man. Like all good things. So first, I'm just working on my body, getting super, super healthy, getting it stronger. Do my Pilates, do my yogas, being flexible, hydrating, just taking care of my body, and then just enjoying this off season and ready to go when I make that decision on where I want to play at next. I'm just excited.
Good. Well, we're excited for you, and we were thrilled to be able to have you on the program today. It was very kind of you to share probably a little bit longer than you thought it would be with us, but it was a wonderful conversation about a great mutual friend that we have. I really hope, I'm going to speak for Darren and I both here, I really hope we get a chance to maybe meet you in person one day, Devonta. If you're ever up anywhere close to this neck of the woods, please reach out. And you've got our numbers now. Please reach out and let us know, and we'd love to grab a bite to eat or something like that. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Congratulations on all of your success. Can't wait to watch you next year. Tote the rock. Another 1,000-yard season coming your way from Devonta Freeman in the NFL. Looking forward to seeing that, my friend. Have a wonderful Super Bowl week and a great offseason.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
You got it. There you go. Devonta Freeman, former tailback for Florida State, and certainly star tailback of the Atlanta Falcons, and now with the Buffalo Bills as well. So really good stuff for him. He has one thing, though, that Brady doesn't have, and that's a national championship ring.
Mm-hmm.
But Brady's got 6 Super Bowl rings, so it all works out.
Yeah, Brady wasn't much at Michigan.
Yeah, it all works out.
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating insight, though, with Pat, because look, somebody who's, the glass half emptiers out there, the keyboard warriors, the message board heroes, they hear things like, well, of course he's going to say a bunch of nice things about Pat DiMarco. Well, yeah, but dude, the guy ran for 1,000 yards in 2 straight years, and he just told you why. You can act like a keyboard warrior, couch monkey all you want to, but when the dude that totes the rock for 1,000 yards tells you why, and this guy had a lot to do with it playing fullback, take my chances on listening to him and believing that what he's saying is probably fairly truthful.
I thought
this wasn't staged.
No, I thought the coolest part was just seeing through his eyes as the play is developing, and Pat, I knew Pat's target was on the outside of the right shoulder. So I'd set the guy up here. I don't want him just blowing the guy up because then I've got nowhere to run. So I know where his target. I mean, it shows you how cohesive it has to be for the guys blocking, for the guys carrying the ball. You got to know exactly where everyone is going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these guys, when I talk to, the guys that I know, basically all through South Carolina, the Reggie Merriweathers of the world, Clemson and others, when I hear them go through the X's and O's and what they see in film and things like that, it's rocket science to me. But
it's an education. Anytime you can be around guys who can really break it down, it's an education.
It just goes to show you the fans that throw things in the stands and stuff like that actually don't have a clue of what's going on.
No?
99.9% of the time when we watch it. That includes me, by the way. All right, real quick before we get to Gene Sapakoff. Last night, NC State upset Louisville in women's hoops. If you're number 1 in women's hoops and you've got NC State on the schedule, might want to opt out of that one. That's 2 this year that they've done. The other, of course, is South Carolina. Now, South Carolina could be, though, number 1 on Monday when they head to Storrs, Connecticut against UConn, whom, by the way, could be number 2 in the country. We'll see. We'll see how it all works out, but it could be a 1-2 matchup up there. Gino, Dawn, all the storylines coming your way Monday evening on Fox Sports 1. But NC State could jump from 4 maybe to 2 or even 1. Their one loss of the year is a non-con loss, but they've got 2 wins over number 1.
Westmore is an outstanding coach. He got the NC State job after Chattanooga. He went from Chattanooga straight to NC State. And if you remember, Chattanooga's women were the UConn of mid-major women for a long, long time. And that's because of Westmore. With the win, he passed Kay Yao in terms of all-time wins. That's how many wins he had with Chattanooga before he went to NC State. He's now been there for a couple of years, but great dude. Dude.
Fascinating. I mean, just unbelievable success. No doubt about that. Also tonight in the upstate at 7 o'clock on the ACC network from Little John, North Carolina, who's all of a sudden got it rolling along. They're going to head to Clemson, who all of a sudden isn't playing well at all. Right now, North Carolina, they are 2.5-point favorites in this game against the Tigers. Remember, they were supposed to play earlier this season at North Carolina in Chapel Hill. That game was postponed due to COVID, so it is the first matchup of the year. Clemson was actually favored going into that game.
Yep.
But since then, the wheels have kind of come off the wagon up there for the Tigers, so we'll see if they can take down the storied Tar Heels this evening. And then also, the biggest game of the night, though, is in the Big 12, as Baylor will hit the road and take on 6th-ranked Texas. This game is scheduled to kick off. What's wrong with me? This game is scheduled to tip off tonight at 7 o'clock on ESPN from the Frank Irwin Center in Austin. Baylor 5.5-point favorites in that one. So if you were a fan of hoops, that one is certainly going to be fun to watch. And careful, Tennessee. They got a trip to Ole Miss tonight from the Pavilion on ESPN2 at 7 o'clock. Careful, Vols. The 11th-ranked Vols could be looking at an upset there.
So, this Baylor-Texas game is one of the bigger, better basketball matchups we've had this year.
Oh, no question. Yeah. Look, Baylor's really, really, really good. And, if you ask me to pick someone to win this game, I'm going to go with Baylor. I'm going to pick Baylor and Gonzaga to win until they lose. I just don't see it at this point in time. But Texas is very capable of winning this game tonight at home against the Bears, but they're gonna need to beat that Bears defense in order to do it. So
Best Shaka Smart team that he has had at Texas, and it's not close.
No, not even close. Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, got to hit a quick timeout. When we return, Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, protected by McFadden Pest Control.
Really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and online.
Your love lifting me higher.
All right, final segment on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back to JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. I want to remind everybody, as we always do, about our friends at McFadden Pest Control. They've been doing it in this neck of the woods for over 40 years. The quarterly pest services and treatments, the mosquito treatments in the summer. They protect your home from termites. They do all of that for us in our home. We've had one bug in 3 years, and that was one spider outside, and I squashed him dead. Nothing on the inside. We did have some sugar ants one time, but that was a service call.
Make you feel like a man when you kill those spiders.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. McFaddenPestControl.com for Heath and his team. McFaddenPestControl.com. All right, we'll get Gene Sapakoff in here. No, that was not. We had a good fun quote or text, whatever, comment from somebody.
Is this the official JB and Goldwater pitch for Pat DiMarco?
No, it was not. But we reached out to Devonta Freeman because I've known Pat, and I thought, you know what? I don't know a lot of 10-year NFL veteran guys who are able to retire from the sport of football.
Yeah.
So why not do a little nod to my old pal there? And Devonta was kind enough to accept the invitation, and I figured we'd just ask about him. And the news is, he's interested in coaching. So we kind of tried to tie it all in. But
there you go.
Is he qualified? Of course. Yeah, he's absolutely qualified to be a college football coach. This guy's more than qualified. That's why he's a 7-time sports writer of the year. It's Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier. What's up, man?
Well, all these invitations I've been getting to virtual Super Bowl parties, I plan to turn them down in person. I'm going to turn them down in person, every single one of them.
You're going to go knock on doors and leave notes? How's that going to work?
Both. Notes, doors, everything.
What? How do you have a virtual Super Bowl party? What's the point of that?
I don't know, but I saw on the news this morning that the CDC is officially recommending virtual Super Bowl parties.
Of course they are.
Cool. So I can have the game on the TV and then a separate computer or two with Zoom people all around the house.
Yeah.
Exactly. While they eat their nachos and you eat your nachos, you'll kind of be bonding together.
Well, my wings are going to be better. They're going to be jealous.
Oh, you using your air fryer, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Gene, are you in line yet for a PlayStation since they're going to bring back NCAA football in the next, 5 years maybe?
I need name, image, and likeness. I've got to have the real guys out there, the real jersey numbers, the real hair hanging outside the helmet, all that kind of stuff. That's what I need.
If I'm going to be Trevor Lawrence and I don't have those locks, then it's just not real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have to wonder like what happened here a little bit because, okay, so they sent out that tease tweet earlier, right? That this thing is coming back. And since then, like it took off like wildfire, which who thought it wouldn't?
Of course.
But since then, they've also like issued a couple of comments and statements about it, like, kind of paraphrasing here, but yeah, we're paying attention to name, image, and likeness, and we'll see what happens over the next few years. Actually, here's the exact quote. Brett McMurphy tweeted it. Launch timing still to come as the project progresses in the years ahead. While this college game will not include student-athlete name, images, and likeness, EA Sports is continuing to watch those developments closely. So it's like, did you not expect people to get excited and run out and start buying PlayStations? Because you knew that was going to happen, right?
Absolutely. And just think what that'll do to a stock like, say, I don't know, GameStop or something like that.
Well, let me
good timing.
Gamecock football's already all over this. They've already released their cover of NCAA Football 22 with Shane Beamer on the cover.
Oh, okay. Who would you put on the cover? Look, Trevor Lawrence has moved on now. Can you still put him on the cover? Who would you put on? Is it just Trevor?
I'll tell you what, going for next year, we're talking about the 2021 season. This season, I'm going to put DJ Uiagalelei because I think he's going to win the Heisman.
Oh, early prediction.
Love January Heisman predictions.
Yes.
Nothing better.
It's our first one.
And they are worth so much, aren't they? They're worth whatever that little washcloth is that Darren's going to wipe his mouth with after he stuffs his face with chicken wings.
That's right. Oh, really good. Really good stuff, Gene. Oh, love it. Right. Well, you take care, my friend. I don't know that we can do any better. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So, Gene, a couple of weeks ago, we had a conversation about how great the basketball was in this state. Did we jinx the state of South Carolina? Because it hasn't been very good since then.
Thanks for that intro, because that's what my column's going to be about later this week. Yes, we did. And I'll tell you what, we jinxed all college basketball. And here's what it comes down to. Duke and North Carolina, the Blue Devils and Tar Heels, will do battle on Saturday. And regardless what happens, North Carolina can beat Clemson by 50 tonight. Those teams are going into that game, the greatest rivalry in college sports over the last, 20 years, probably. They're going into that game unranked for the first time since the 59-60 season. Oh. And that pretty much sums up where we are in college basketball.
I saw that. I think West Durham was the first one to drop that nugget. It's 1960. That's 60 years.
That is remarkable.
Since neither team's been ranked. And it's still going to get all the publicity, right?
I'm really old, and I don't even remember that season.
No, well, I don't either.
I mean, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I mean, there's so many little anecdotal examples. Look how good Florida State is. They've got 5 games to make up. But yeah, I wrote that column just a couple weeks ago. The Citadel was undefeated. I don't think they've won a game since. The College of Charleston was going to play Northeastern 2 games at home for first place in the CAA. They lost both of them by a couple points. Clemson's just getting hammered with a few exceptions. South Carolina has had just up and down. Frank Martin just can't get any sort of traction with that defense, which is, you've got to practice. You've got to have some rhythm. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how or if we get to the end of the line in Indianapolis.
Well, Clemson's 4-5, 10-5, and obviously the last 5 games they've won just one. It was against Louisville, who now is 0-4 in their 4 previous trips to the upstate of South Carolina. One of those games, though, was not played at Littlejohn. It was played in Greenville because they were renovating Littlejohn. That was their only win, like you said, hammered against Duke, Florida State, Georgia Tech, and Virginia. But I saw last night, I'm pretty sure it's Lenardi, who still feels like at this point in time, Clemson is a tournament team. I think their net rankings right around 59 or 60 or somewhere in there. Gene, do you view Clemson as a tournament team as it stands right now today?
Well, let's look at it this way. The Duke game was really bad. I mean, there were some poster ESPN highlight dunks on Clemson, the one on PJ Hall, for instance, but they looked even worse than that, just standing around on defense. And I think they're just exhausted. However, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and beat the Tar Heels tonight. I think their backs are against the wall. And I think they also see that they've got this stretch of home games, winnable games, that they can kind of get back in the thick of things. So, yeah, I still think that they deserve to be in the NCAA tournament if the season were to end now, which, God forbid, it won't. And I think they'll make it, because I still think that Brad Bonnell has a really good, really balanced team with a star player in Sims, and that, they just have to take advantage of what the schedule is going to give them over the next couple of weeks.
And all subject to change, certainly, but as it stands right now, North Carolina, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, at Notre Dame, at Pitt, at Wake, Miami, Pitt, that is the remainder of their schedule. As it stands right now, none of those teams are ranked. Again, that can all change quickly. How do you assess the ACC where we are right now?
The Commonwealth. That's how I assess it. I think Virginia and Virginia Tech are the two best teams. And it's just, I expected that same kind of defense and shooting from Tony Bennett's bunch, but what a job Mike Young has done with the Hokies at Virginia Tech, and to rally and beat Virginia the other day. And they still have a game that was canceled, or I should say, postponed, that I sure hope they can get in. Now, guys, the big question, and not just with the ACC, but are we going to see conference tournaments? Is that a viable option, knowing how hard it would be to get 64 healthy teams into the NCAA tournament? But just to answer your question, the thing kind of spins around Charlottesville and Blacksburg right now, I think, in the ACC.
Some conferences have either made that determination or have kind of alluded to that. Are you hearing more of a groundswell that more conferences are going with, you know what, let's get through the season. Let's see if we can do that. Our conference regular season champ is going to be our representative.
I'm hearing that there's been discussion of that in every league. Well, I can't say I've, queried the Horizon and the Mountain West people and all that, but the local leagues, that is to say the regional leagues and the teams in the state, they definitely have that as an option. And Roy Williams addressed that the other day, saying he kind of wants to do it. But, he didn't really come strong and hard that we have to. Look, this is a weird thing to say, but I don't think there's any asterisk around the college football championship and the way the playoff went this year whatsoever. I think there's going to be an asterisk on the NCAA champion this year in basketball. There just is. I mean, too many teams have just been waylaid by COVID already, and it's a mess. I mean, hey, tip your cap to Gonzaga and Baylor and these other top-ranked teams and stuff, and even like the Florida States of the world that have done so well, but definitely just a messed up season. And we all on this fine program, we talk about all kinds of sports, but really concerned with how baseball thinks it's going to get through 5 games a week.
We're getting there. That's coming up next year in just a moment. By the way, everything y'all were just talking about as far as just naming the conference champion and then putting them in the tournament, that directly contradicts everything we heard coming into the season. Let's just put all 300 teams into the tournament. Directly contradicts everything.
Well, that was floated out there once. There was no real serious legitimacy behind it.
Coach K said it.
Yes.
I mean, does the SEC at this point, Gene? Do they have a case for being a better league than the ACC this year in basketball?
This second, they sure as heck do. I mean, there's only 3 ACC teams in the top 25, and 2 of them aren't Duke or North Carolina. So yeah, they do. They had some ups and downs in that SEC Big 12 challenge last week. But look at Tennessee, and some of the teams are just playing really well. Alabama's been solid. I know they had an upset loss the other day against Oklahoma, right? But yeah, I mean, I think you could say that. The SEC is just a really good basketball league and has been for the last few seasons overall.
Well, and let's remember this too. Let's say, all right, you take the top half of the league, the Tide, the Gators, LSU, Tennessee, Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Auburn, right? Those are the top 8 teams in the league. Two of those teams can't play in the postseason.
Yeah,
LSU and Auburn. And I'm anxious to see if that helps Kentucky, because Kentucky has struggled, Gene. I mean, they're 5-10 right now. They're not going to be in the postseason. They got a long ways to go, but maybe because Auburn and LSU aren't even capable of being selected this year, maybe that helps the Wildcats. Could you believe that?
It doesn't. It is just, number 857 of the wackiness of the college basketball season in COVID. But let's say that as much as, I'm worried about college basketball and everybody else is too, should be a fascinating February.
I agree. All right. Real quick here on the Gamecocks. I'm going to ask you, you're the guy. You like the tough question. So I'm going to ask you the tough question here. And I am not a fire anybody in the middle of any season ever. And that's not the question I'm asking. Carolina is struggling. If this continues, I mean, this was Frank's most experienced, best team on paper since the Final Four run. If this continues, if this becomes the rest of the season, we watch what we've been watching the last couple of weeks. Is Frank Martin coaching South Carolina in 2021, 2022?
Unless something is going on that I don't know about behind the scenes, that is to say some sort of ethical or NCAA rule problem. Hell yes, he is. Yeah. And that is because, you have to absolutely factor in COVID's, the pauses, the fact that he himself has been significantly ill from this. Yeah. There was not a lot of sympathy for football coaches getting whacked. And there shouldn't have been, because once you got going into the season, the rhythm of the season, and everybody pretty much played either all the games they were supposed to or maybe missed one. I know there were a few teams maybe missed a couple. That wasn't that big of a factor. COVID absolutely has been a huge factor in how basketball performance has gone.
I love that answer. That's a sound answer from Gene Sapakoff.
Okay. A, I agree with everything you just said about COVID and everything you just said. B, had that not been the case, had the team just had a really bad year this year like it's going, he should still be the coach next year, because what he's accomplished with South Carolina is still better than what most accomplished with South Carolina. He deserves a bad year like this, even though there are outside circumstances here. That's my take.
That's a tougher one. I would say that it's not good that you went to just one NCAA tournament. Of course, parenthetically, that was a Final Four, and they won 4 NCAA tournament games. You could argue that the 4 NCAA tournament games, to say it that way, is almost more impressive than to say Final Four, because of the history of so few NCAA tournament wins South Carolina has ever had. But yeah, I think if this is a huge if, we shouldn't even be talking about this. Right. But if the Gamecocks were in this situation and if it was a normal season, I think he would be on the bubble. But he's not at all. And you've seen what they can do and how exciting they are and fun to watch too. They're probably as much fun to watch, this team, as any team he's had except for the Final Four team. When they're all there on the court, Keyshawn Bryant's back with those guys, and it's just AJ Lawson and Mania, and it's just a really cool team in Seventh Woods, but they can't get any rhythm going, and that's not Frank Martin's fault.
Right. 152, Gene, you mentioned baseball, and I do want to get into some college baseball. We were scheduled to have Skyler today. We're going to have him on Thursday. We had to move some things around with Carolina's scrimmage at 12:25. We had Devonta Freeman hopping on with us as well. And we'll speak with Mark next week. We got Monty, Chad, Tony. They're all coming up over the next week or so here on our show. Yesterday, I was actually texting with Skyler, Gene, when Kendall Rogers blew the cover off of Kingston's tees on Twitter. So I asked him about it, and he said, yeah, and they're actually, Texas is going to come here in 2022 as well. We're hearing a lot about Carolina baseball in the preseason. They're in everybody's top 25, basically. They've had 2 excellent recruiting classes. Mark is certainly scheduled heavy. The non-con schedule is really tough. We know what the league says. Is Carolina baseball back?
No, it's not back. I mean, you have to have some sort of sustained success, and they haven't had that yet. But when I'm looking at a team in any sport, but baseball especially, I think is this way. Well, no, basketball and football are too, but I want gradual progress. And that's what Mark Kingston is showing me. I mean, gradual progress and at a high level. I mean, look at the rankings always in college baseball's top 25 and in the recruiting rankings. And it's not just full of SEC teams. It's just loaded in that top 10 with SEC East.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that he's making this intriguing progress, but you got to answer your question, are they back? You're talking about a standard that Ray Canner set of 3 straight trips to Omaha and the championship final, not, obviously back-to-back championships, but people don't mention enough that 2012 team that almost won a third national championship. So that's a heck of a standard there. And, but I like that Kingston enjoys it, welcomes it, just like Chad Holbrook did.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned COVID, I was talking to Tony Skoll yesterday morning on the phone for a while, and the Citadel's a little bit different, right? Because of their structure of doing things. But Gene, I'm with you. You're playing all these games in baseball. I get it. You're spread out on the field and stuff. That doesn't mean that you don't live with players. Doesn't mean you're not in a dugout. Doesn't mean you're not in a locker room. Doesn't mean you're not on buses. I know they're going to take multiple buses when they go places and things of that nature. But you're right. I mean, you get a Friday night guy wiped out in a series against a Vanderbilt or South Carolina or Florida, or if you're Clemson, you got to play Florida State and your Friday night guy can't go. And then you contact Trace and you realize, neither can your Saturday guy and things like that. You talk about a screwy season. Baseball, in my opinion, is going to be the ultimate test of COVID procedures in college athletics.
There's so many things about COVID, including going to the grocery store, that you can look at 2 different ways. And what's beautifully tragic about this is that we can all relate. Every person in the world got COVID things that they can talk about, for better or very much worse. But so for baseball, I think a lot of people, even my friends in the media, do not realize, as I do, and I know you do, Jamie, with ties to baseball, and I have cousins and nephews and stuff that are playing now, like at the high school level and college level and stuff, but they played all summer. Travel leagues and collegiate leagues and stuff. They played lots of games, traveling on planes and buses and stuff all over the country. So they did. However, what you just said, though, you lose your Friday starter, and even if there's no contact tracing, that really messes up your pitching rotation, because now the Saturday guy goes on Friday and the Sunday guy goes on Friday, or you have some guy in the bullpen go on Friday, or you lose your cleanup hitting shortstop. That is a lot, and it really changes things, and that's pretty much the best case scenario for how I see this season playing out.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about this. Like, what if you test positive on a Thursday and you're wiped for 10 days minimum?
Yep.
You're missing, like, let's just
2 weekends.
You're missing 2 weekends. I mean, let's just look at South Carolina's schedule, and there's a ton of examples like this, but it's just because it's top of mind for me. Whoever their Friday night guy ends up being, tests on a Thursday, he's positive, Gene. He can't pitch against Vanderbilt on Friday. Oh, by the way, he can't pitch against Florida the following Friday either. I mean, the committee's job this year, outside of just taking conference tournament champions, this is going to be, they're going to really have to know what's going on inside of all these programs.
Again, the 2 ways to look at it. On the one hand, the coaches too. I worry about the coaching staff. College baseball staffs are not like football, where they just have all these coaches and stuff. Yeah. It's a fairly tight, I won't say skeletal crew, but somebody's coaching third that wasn't coaching third and making decisions, and you don't have your pitching coach if there's COVID issues. On the other hand, the baseball coaches were really noticeably mad, parentheses Chad Holbrook, that season was interrupted because they just thought they could have kept playing an outdoor sport with not many fans in the stands anyway, very distanced, and that the plug shouldn't have been pulled as it was in March of 2020.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, we're going to have more baseball in the future with you, but as you look at the state now, we're now in February. In the next couple of weeks, they're all going to be playing baseball. You look at what Tony has brought into the Citadel, what Chad has been doing at the college, Monty, Mark, up the road at Coastal Carolina. Don't want to forget about our friends at CSU. When you look collectively at this state here in 2021, it's a proud baseball state, Gene. What do you see?
I see upside in progress in almost every program for different reasons. Clemson was playing really well when the plug was pulled. I think their pitching might be maybe even better than it was. I'm a little worried about their hitting, but we'll see there. South Carolina should just solidly be better all around. I think Chad Holbrook's really in a groove here at the College of Charleston. He had a good team last year. He very well might have a better team now. Tony Scholes making progress at the Citadel. Not sure what to expect at Charleston Southern. And, Coastal, that's a tough one because, again, the standard is unrealistic there. They expect I know they don't expect to win the College World Series, but they expect to get to the NCAA tournament, and they're finding out that that's really, really hard.
It sure is. You can say that again. There's a lot.
You don't just roll the dice out there and end up in Omaha.
But, that's the standard in South Carolina. I mean,
it is.
I mean, Pulowski brought that standard to the College of Charleston.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cougs expect to be there.
It is. It is. And all these players and all these coaches really like it because that means people are damn well interested in college baseball. Sure. And I don't know, except for Mississippi and Texas. I mean, there just aren't that many states that are that college baseball crazy. Of course, Baton Rouge, but I mean, for the whole state, I'm just saying that South Carolina probably leads the way as far as just several programs, where there's just intense interest in baseball.
I totally agree. I'd love to do a whole show on that one day. Do rank South Carolina and Mississippi to me are the two states where, like Gene said, border to border, people truly care about baseball. I would put Texas in there. I'd put Arkansas in there. And I'd put Louisiana in there. Those would be my top. Those would absolutely, Gene, totally be my top. I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm down with that list for sure.
All right, what I know we're a little bit past due. That's okay. We own this deal. We can do it. What do we have coming up in the paper this week? I have not had a chance to sit down and read the winners and losers column you've got up about college or minor league baseball in South Carolina yet. It's been in my to-do list, and I've been too busy, unfortunately, the last few days. But I'm going to do that tonight. I would encourage folks to look at that. What are we looking for the rest of the week?
First of all, let me plug Josh Needleman just wrote, and it's on our website, postandcourier.com, an incredibly cool story. Josh going to Jacksonville to see about Trevor Lawrence mania. David Cloninger got a really cool story coming up on the Tampa Bay Bucks, who have a kicker, Ryan Suckup from South Carolina, and a punter, Bradley Pinion, from Clemson, and how they're buds and really excited about this Super Bowl. And I'm going to have a Super Bowl quiz with lots of Palmetto State ties for Sunday, and the story that I was alluding to about how the entire state of Palmetto State basketball has just gone in the tank the last few weeks.
It has. By the way, what's going on with DC? All these press conferences, he hasn't been raising his hand first. Did something change?
He's pacing himself, I think. He's just he's got to have the off-season rhythm, but we're getting towards spring football and March Madness, and I think you'll see him assert his veteran leadership here soon.
I was going to say it's the off-season conditioning program.
When
getting ready.
Yeah, when I hear Fink, he whispers at these things. Fink will, we're going to go to Phil Kornbluth with our first question today, and I'm like, wait a second, whoa, what's going on with DC? Is he tired? Is he up all night with the baby? I mean, what's happening?
Maybe
we got to get that straight. All right. Gene,
yeah,
you're the best, man. Thank you so much as always. I know we kept you a little bit longer today, but it's because it's fun to have you on. Have a wonderful week. We really look forward to all of these columns. We look forward to speaking with you again next week.
Take it easy, guys.
There you go, Gene Sapakoff on Twitter at Sapakoff. All right, we all know it's Groundhog Day as we leave you on this Tuesday afternoon. It is also National Tater Tot Day.
Oh, everyone can get behind a tater tot.
That's right.
You can even do them up like a whole, almost like mashed potatoes. You leave the tater tots in, you cover them with cheese.
Oh, yeah, man.
Like loaded tater tots.
Celebrate the rat seeing his shadow in Punxsutawney Phil. But don't forget about my man, General Beauregard in Georgia. He did not see his shadow.
I've been through Punxsutawney, by the way. Okay. I have. I've been to the town.
We should have had Bill Murray on today. What were we thinking?
I'm sure that's an easy get on Groundhog Day.
I bet you the movie's on.
Guaranteed. All day, probably.
Thanks to Gene Sapakoff, Devonta Freeman, and Mike Yuba. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to Darren Goldwater.
Thank you.
Signing day tomorrow with J.C. Sherber right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. See you then.